those stats.
All right, so that's good.
Welcome everyone on Facebook. You're welcome to join us live here on KKVV 1060 AM. We have Deb and Joe, and I'm Jessica. We are your pro-life DJs for the day.
Good
Do
one.
you have a pen?
No.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
You need one?
Do you have pens?
That's fine.
Pens?
No, I always keep one here.
She's bringing us some.
Which means it fell in my car. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Phones are on silent, everybody. Phones are on silent. Welcome, listeners. Thank you for joining the Fight for Life on KKVV 1060 AM. This is Deb and Jess and Joe, your pro-life DJs for the day.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
I wanted to give a special shout out to a couple of our sponsors that came in the last couple days. One is to Demetrios at Las Vegas Uniforms and to Premier Adoption Agency for your generous sponsorships received this week. Thank you so much. And with that, I will give the floor to Deb.
We have somebody special here with us today. We have Joe. He is one of my fellow board mates on our board at First Choice. And I've had the privilege of serving with him for, I don't know what, 2 years, Joe?
2 years? Yeah, it's actually 2 now.
And he is a great encouragement to us, Jessica and I particularly.
Yes.
Always reaching out to him, looking for some advice and insights on different things. And he was actually the one that gave us the little tagline, the DJs.
Pro-life DJs.
So we have him on today. Joe, how about telling us a little bit about your background and why you're so passionate about pro-life issues?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's great to be here. And they're not paying me any money for the name I gave you, so that's great. I'm passionate about pro-life because I'm a child of God. That's the first thing. And I can't imagine not being that. My background, very, very quickly, is I'm a restaurant guy, as you all know here. And that's been a big part of my life. So I've always worked with younger people for almost 50 years since college. And I was raised in a very, very traditional, my family's from Italy. I'm a first-generation Italian immigrant. And, well, I'm not the immigrant. I'm actually born here. Born in Cleveland, Ohio. And I was raised with the idea of abortion and pro-life wasn't even a matter. It was just life. And so the passion really is probably in my DNA, which is a great thing. And that's not always the case anymore in the world we're in. Married for 49 years, 2 wonderful sons, and 4 magnificent grandchildren, which are sitting on my desk here in front of me on my phone because that's my inspiration. But as far as being pro-life, I'm trying to figure out when in my life I have been anti-life, and that sounds kind of a play on words, but it's always been something I'm passionate about living. I love our Lord in every way, shape, or form. I sometimes refer to myself as an on-fire Roman Catholic Christian. Some people look at me cross-eyed when I say that, but I am, and I think I took the words of when Mary visited Elizabeth, and those are the words that really are my foundation. The baby leapt in my womb. It's really that simple, and unfortunately a lot of people like to complicate it. The infant. So it's been identified not as an embryo, not as a glob of flesh, and all the other cute little words that some people like to use to kill babies. But the reality is, it's an infant and in womb. So when infant and womb, it really sort of puts it together. So that's really been my passion. It's just at first choice, though, that passion takes, it's sort of like where the rubber hits the road. So it's been a wonderful 2 years so far. It's gone fast.
Yeah, it has.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We do want to know, why have we as a people allowed choice and being pro-choice priority over the sanctity of life?
That's a question that I ask people that are pro-choice. I have no problem being pro-choice. I make choices every moment of my life. We all do. And they're usually, some of them are very important. Should I go right on red and all these things that if I don't, I can kill somebody or be killed, literally. So it isn't like it's only one thing. But the idea that a person, and I don't care whether it's a man or woman, it's irrelevant to me. The fact that any choice is more important than the sanctity of life, it doesn't even seem to equate. It's like air and water. They are opposites, both important, choice and life. So I think in our world, when we become so narcissist to what we want only, me, and it's not just this generation. I'm sure it's been that way back in Nineveh. But the reality is, it is that way. And it gets to be very disturbing to me when it's that way for you. But for myself, the idea that I could have anything that would allow me to take a life from anything, be it a child in the womb or an individual dying in a bed, is ludicrous. Because I really do think at that point I'm not playing God. I'm thinking I'm God. It's one thing to play God. That's fine to do that on Broadway probably every day. But you really are being God. You are doing something that God gives us, and that is from Him, and that is life. And to take that away from Him and His power is ridiculous in my mind. And it's very, very, very selfish to a point where choice should never trump a child's ability to live.
Amen.
Joe's questions. We were like, wow, Joe, he's bringing it to you guys today.
Well, that is probably the most uplifting thing in the world. I often say, and I love our country. America is really, the greatness of America is only proven by the disgust that we have in this country, that we do, whether it's murders, rapes. I mean, if you look at how bad some things are, and I'm not just picking on the White House, that's too easy. That's low-hanging fruit. Just look at how many things are wrong in our country today. And yet, on balance, I would say without a doubt, we are the most gifted and probably the greatest country that has ever existed. So I think that's a tribute to what we were, maybe not what we are. Some of the best...
We're quickly falling away from that.
Exactly. Some of the best attributes I have are not my own. They're my mother and my father's. I just happen to still have them in me. And I think that's unfortunately where the United States is right now. I think we are there's no doubt in my mind that as of today, and this could change, the best days are in our rearview mirror. And that's a scary thing, because when you do that, you tend to, look at the back and not look at the front, and you get off base. And the road, we all know, is very narrow where we all want to go. And this country is riding on a super highway with 6 lanes. And that's a bad spot. But I'm not saying it's over by any stretch. In fact, it's probably the best of times for people of faith who look at our Lord as someone who is that's what we follow. It's not just a red letter Bible that we should be following. It's everything that our Lord has shown us. So the path is there to get out of this. But I do think, again, it gets back to my comment from before, when you just keep focusing on yourself and what's good for me and what's right for me and all of these other attributes, you don't think about the other person at all, including the one that might be in your womb. So I hate to be that way, because I'm an optimist by nature. And I find myself even being more in need of being an optimist, as I think all Christians must be in practice and not in preaching. That optimism is what can lead us where we need to be, because no one gets anywhere keeping their head down in the dumps.
Coming from that aspect of a woman myself who was once young, dumb, 17 years old, and found myself pregnant, and needing that leading, why do you feel like men might really need to support the women that are pro-life and support the women who are getting pregnant?
Jess, that is absolutely that is the most important question, because I am the guy sitting here with the testosterone, and you got the estrogen. I always say, being raised by my mother and two older sisters, I had a great father, but always being surrounded, even in grade school, 9 years of amazing nuns teaching me. I had women around me more than men, which is a great thing for a man. It's one thing a man should always be after. But the reality is, I believe that men have taken the back seat, saying, well, it's their body, it's their decision. Hey, guy, you had something to do with it, number one. Number two is, I do think men, I'd like to say we're standing, right with you. And the reality is, we are standing, we need to be next to you, but we really need to be behind you for support when you're getting pushed back. Because there's more pushback coming to women than men. This is the easiest cop-out in the history since God took that rib. That was probably the last time, that we were in the front. We should have been realizing we need to be standing, because you take more abuse, you take more negativity about abortion, about pregnant, everything there is, and a guy gets off with it easily. Whereas I do think men need to stand up, and they need to do it in a way that's not just in the Sunday, preaching type mentality. It's got to be day in and day out when they're in discussion with other men and other women. They need to show that support. It's the armor on. I do believe in this. And when the woman comes back, and it's usually going to be from the left, and says, you don't know it. I heard it a couple weeks ago. I'm listening to a press secretary on a national broadcast saying, well, you don't know what it is to have a baby. Well, you know what? I don't know what it is to die as a doctor, but I try to save lives. So stop with that I'm a man baloney, because it infuriates me, because, we are a part of this, and it is our responsibility. Ultimately, though, you are the one having the baby. And that's why I say I think a man's got to start standing up and really being a man, stop being a wimp.
Now you all get why we love Joe.
And it's a righteous anger for sure.
He brings some good discussion to us. This isn't on our list here, but I'd like to have you, because you're a great advocate on our cause and our behalf, just briefly tell people why they should be behind First Choice.
Well, First Choice, that's the great one. Somebody said you really shouldn't have the name First Choice. It sounds like there's another choice. And there is. God gave us a free will. As I often say, it's probably the one gift I'd like to return at times, because I'd rather just be the angel floating around with our Lord. The reality is we do have a choice, and we have a free will. And First Choice is an amazing organization. And it's funny, because having seen it just as deeply as I have the last 2 years, going from, we talked about filling T-Mobile with babies in the city, 18,000, and then we're 37 or 38,000, whatever, 37.5, and now we're going for Allegiant Field. I love it. One of these days we'll go to the Coliseum and do 105,000 babies' lives. I'm passionate about it because I see the work that the people do there. And it's not, and everybody talks about the great work we all do, blah, blah, blah. Listen, there are how many generations being created or being allowed to live, not really being created, and it's just such a magnificent way, and it's easy. Yes, we need money, we need help, there's no question about it. We've got our fantastic banquet November 12th between 5:30 and 9, but I would say once a year is nice. We need regular help. We need the support, because we're not going to be getting it from anyone else. We're certainly not getting it from Washington. And Planned Parenthood, I do not think, is going to be giving us some of the ridiculous amounts of money they have. I'm not sure I'd really want their money from where it comes, but the reality is, First Choice it's not the only choice, but it is the first choice as our Lord would want us to follow.
And with that, we're going to wrap up with some details on our banquet.
Well, first, for our stats, we had 80 pregnancy tests and 56 ultrasounds that First Choice was able to serve the women of our community with this week alone. And we're going to briefly talk about our 17th annual banquet, Champions for Life, and it's also a silent action. November 12th from 5:30 to 9 p.m., as Joe had mentioned earlier. It's going to be held at the Westgate Resort. With our keynote speaker is pro-life advocate and public speaker Abby Johnson. She's also an author of the book Unplanned that turned to box office hit movie. And then we also have public speaker and pro-life advocate Seth Gruber that will be there. Mrs. Nevada International 2022 Ashley Tesoro is going to be there and singing a special song for us, with musical entertainment by Emily Allen. Additionally, if you want to get plugged into First Choice and helping us to do some fundraising, prior to that, we have Rummage and Bake Sale on October 16th. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Fight for Life. We wish you a wonderful week and tune back in Tuesday at 3:16 p.m.
Have a great day.
Bye bye.
Can you turn off the...
And Shannon, good seeing